Hello, welcome to our video where we're going to have a detailed look at our RunwiseFX library, which adds a lot of great functionality into our product, and it's available at runwisefx.com/library. And it's very easy to use the library. We've got these quick load codes on the various items in the library, so let's just scroll down to this section, display information on chart. We've got a great rule here, which is to display a matrix of popular indicators, and that's the quick load code of D. So all you'd need to do in our product is click the config button. In this code box, just type in D and click the download button, and that will then download that configuration from our library. And what it does is reconfigure the EA, and then what it's going to do is present now all those indicators calculated on different time frames. So this is all done via configuration. If you click the details link, you can just see the configuration in there. Now obviously you don't need to understand all of this, but it just shows you just how powerful the system is, that just via configuration you can actually display something really useful like this on the chart, and obviously can do much more than just display information on the chart, as we'll see a bit later in the video. And if you wanted to remove something, you can just go to config, tools, and then in this code box you'll see any quick load codes that you've downloaded appear in there. There's also some other options like reset to factory, but we can select that D and just click remove, and then it'll just remove the rule from the EA. And the only thing to say extra really is you do need to have our website in that tools options, expert advisors, allow web request, and you need our website added into that with the HTTP rather than HTTPS. That's fine, as you can see it there, but you only have to do that once. So once you've done that, then you'll be fine to access our website and to download rules from our library. Okay, let's begin then by going through the library. The library begins with custom indicator settings, so let's have a look at that page. The important thing to say here is what you're downloading with our quick load codes is the actual settings to capture the indicator. So you're not downloading the indicator itself. You do have to have that already installed on your system. You're just downloading the settings in order to capture it. So a good example is this non-repeating super trends. So we've got two sections. We've got like a free section, free custom indicators, and paid for as well. So in the free one, it's a very good indicator, even though it's free, non-repeating super trends, with the quick load code there. So what we have got a download link, so you'd need to download it yourself into MetaTrader 4. We can't do that for you. EAs aren't allowed to access your indicators folder, so you will need to get that into your EA. So it appears in your indicators folder. There's plenty of guidance online on how to install indicators. We can add it to the chart just so you can see it working. It's a good idea to make sure it does work. So what we can do now is to get the EA to actually automate this indicator. If we go to config, we put in that quick load code from the library, click download, and what's going to happen is it's going to download the actual settings necessary for this indicator. You can see our status text is open. You can see now we're in the buy direction, so it's already signaling buy. It says stale old just because we've just added the configuration, and we're also midway through that buy situation. The system automatically added some rules to actually trade on indicators. So when you download settings for indicators, it automatically adds this entry on indicators and exit on indicators. And if you go to config, indicator values to capture, when you downloaded the settings, they appeared in here. So that was that settings there. So you got the indicator name and just what buffers are used to capture it. So this is basically what you've downloaded from the library. We do have a separate video on our website about configuring your own custom indicators. So if you have something that isn't in our library, you can download it and configure it yourself. It's not too hard, but if you use our library, it's already done for you. And to trade this indicator now, all you'd have to do is to go to config and just change the auto mode. At the moment it's just alert, we just need to set it to trade continuous, and then it would trade that indicator for you. And what you can also do is go to config, activate statistics, where what it'll do is it'll look at the historical signals from that indicator and just calculate out the profit and drawdown, so you can actually add to your strategy and add in other indicators. And obviously our product supports optimization, where it actually works out the best stop loss and things like that. So, and you can see now how it's showing you the signals there. So that's when the indicator changed. It opened a sell trade there, and then a buy trade there. So really you could do with optimizing the stop loss, because the stop loss is just a bit too shallow. It ought to be a bit bigger than that, really. So obviously that's part of what our product does. But the main thing is, it was about using the library just to get the settings for the indicator. So the next section in our library is standard indicator settings. So these are indicators that MetaTrader is supplied with, so things like moving average and RSI. And if you go in there, you can see all the ones that we support, so they're all listed there. We added a few extra things like price action, which looks at if it's a bearish or bullish candle. We've also got entries in here for any indicators that put objects on the chart, so like little arrows and things like that. And there's a few the custom indicators, but they come with MetaTrader by default, so we've put them in here as well. So this is basically anything that's available within a standard MetaTrader installation. So let's take a look at an example. We've got a moving average and we've got the quit low code there. But the one thing about these standard indicators is they are available for selection directly within the product, so you don't even need to use a quit low code in this case. So let's just have a look at that. So we've reset everything back to default. We've put a moving average on the chart with period 50. If we go to config, indicator values to capture, there's like a selection list for the indicator name, and you'll see those standard ones available. So you can select directly from here that moving average. We do need to change the period to 50, so just to match what's on the chart. So remember, the EA is capturing indicators for itself, so it can't look directly on your chart. You've got to tell it what to capture. So we'll click save on that. And again, it's added those default rules there to actually do something with that indicator value, because we don't want to just capture it. We actually want to sort of either alert or trade on it. So that's what it has done there. You can actually see that in our library. If we go back to our main library, we call it our built-in rule, really, and it's down at the bottom where it describes it there. So that's auto entry exit based on configured indicators. So that has been automatically added by the system, just so that it's ready to go straight out of the box. So there we are, we've got it on the chart. You can do that thing that we showed you before of activate statistics, and it's going to trade when the price crosses this line. So if it crosses over the line, it's going to be a buy signal, and then if it crosses under the line, it's going to be a sell signal. So you can see that here. Now what is useful in the library, if you go back to that standard indicators, go back to moving average and click this details link, it talks a little bit more about what you can do with this entry. And it's possible, instead of looking at the price crossing the line, you could look at the slope of the line if you change something we call the capture mode to IncDec, which stands for increment and decrement. So if we go to there, config, if we go back to our indicator values to capture, select the moving average, and there's your capture mode. So if we change it to IncDec, click save. So what it's going to do instead is just look at the slope of the line. So that was just a useful bit of information in our library. So you can treat our library as a bit of a reference, and you can see now what it's doing. It's just looking at the slope of the line and trading based on that. And obviously again, you can add in other indicators as well. This is just an example. Okay, so let's go through the rest of the library. So we began with the indicator settings. Oh, just one thing to say about capturing indicators. If you own our Ultimate Trade Manager product, to capture indicators and do analysis on them, you do need also our indicator combined product. So I just want to mention that out of fairness, so that you just know what products you need to use all of our library. So the next section, this is really now where we turn to rules that will actually do things for you. So we begin with account management rules that are very popular, where you can set limits on daily drawdowns and take profit targets as well. So for example, with this rule, you could put like a 1% close, so that if your portfolio of trades during the day reaches say 1 or 2%, they actually close all the trades and just don't trade till the following day. That's pretty good, because very often during the day there can be a little moment where you've got a few trades open and you are say 2% up on the day. There can just be a little brief moment during the day where you're doing really well, and what that rule can do for you is just close out and say you're done for the day, and then just wait for the next day. So that's just a great bit of account management rules, we call it, where it's operating on the entire account. So there's lots of useful things there, both in terms of a take profit and limiting drawdown as well. That's can be important, say on a daily basis. We then have alternative entry rules. So as you can see with the system, you can very easily trade indicators. That's fine. But sometimes there's other types of entry rules you might want. A really good example is to enter on a particular time and a particular direction. So that quick low code there is CI-T, so we can just do that. It's a good idea just really only to have one entry rule, because they'll trade when either one is in agreement, and there can be a bit of a conflict there. So we think for one particular MetaTrader installation is just to have one main entry rule. So it's perhaps a good idea to tick replace existing. So that will clear out any existing configuration and just use that one. So if we click download, and what you can see now, it's actually added to the panel. So that's a really nice thing about our library. It's capable of actually changing the interface to match what you want it to do. So here we can actually put in an open time. Any times that you do enter in our rules are server time, or also known as chart time. So it's what appears in your market watch window and on your chart. So if you wanted it to open a trade at 8 o'clock, just put it in like that. And you need to say what direction. So you can do sell, buy, or both, and that's what it'll do. Again, you would need to always, to get it to actually automatically trade, you do need to set to the TC mode, otherwise it would just alert you, and that would be good to go. So the following day at 8 o'clock it's going to open 2 trades in both directions. Now we'll show you how to improve on that, and perhaps just open a trade in a certain direction based on, say, on an indicator. We'll cover that a little bit later in the video, but it's just an example of what you can do in the library. We then have a filter section. So this is all about, I kind of alluded to it there a little bit, where you've got your entry rule, but maybe you want to put in a few extra checks. So perhaps things on, perhaps how many trades that you perhaps lost on the day, so you can also call them tickets, minimum gaps between trades, also not trading on a Friday as an example. There's lots of various examples. Looking at the RSI, just trading when it's not oversold, overbought, it's quite popular. Trading hours per day of the week. So natively in the EA you do have, in general settings, you can set some trading hours, but it's the same for every day of the week. There is a little option to reduce the hours a bit on a Friday, but generally it's the same hours every week. But in the library you could add a filter there, so we've got days of the week where you can set different hours depending on what day of the week it is. And again, it's just config, it's a filter. We're adding it on, so we don't want to tick that replace existing. We do want to keep what's already in there, and that's going to enter a filter now where we would be able to put trade hours for each day of the week. And don't forget, always go to the rule detail section to say, well, what do I put in and what format do I put it in, and it just tells you exactly in there. So that details link gives you all the necessary information, so you can do that, and you can add as many filters as you like. We then have an example of a grid system, which is a manual grid system. Again, it just showcases just how powerful this scripting engine is that we've built into the EA, how you can do so much through configuration. So you have our EA as a fixed product, but you can configure it in lots of different ways. The next section is pending orders. So this is all about setting up pending orders, say on button press, or doing things like slantable pending orders, where it have a trend line that is actually diagonal, and the pending line can actually follow that, so it will trade, say, when the price breaches that trend line. This is quite a popular one. Set pending orders on based on the previous session. So imagine you got the Asian session. When that Asian session is finished and you reach a particular moment in the morning, it can look at that Asian session, look at the highs and lows, and set the pending orders based on that, and it will then trade when it breaks out of that high-low range. So that's a really nice rule there. It's quite popular, and also cancelling pending orders as well. And we can even do rules that operate on hotkey press, so you can press a key on your keyboard to set up a pending order as well, so you can download that. So it's just a great resource there. We've covered displaying information on the chart. I think the other one, popular one there, is display candle timer. So that just puts a little candle timer on, so you can go D, CT, click download, and that will just put a little timer there just for how long you've got left on the candle. We're on an hour chart, so you've got 41 minutes left. Well, it's always good to also check the details link, because the default is to show white text, but if your chart background is white, then you've got an alternative version with a slightly different download code that will actually give you black text. So very often, if you see a rule that doesn't do quite what you want to do, just scroll down a bit. There might be an alternative version that adds on what you need. So let's go back to the library. We've then got a section on exit rules. So this is separate to stop loss and take profit. They happen regardless, that's fine. Exiting is about exiting based on actual rules, so like indicators going in the opposite direction. A very good example would be exiting just before a high impact news event, because a high impact news event coming up can really blow your trade out of the water. So it can be a really good idea to exit just before one of those is coming up, and that rule there will do that for you. And again, exiting, there's various criteria based on your equity and current profits and so on. So there's a nice section there. We've also got exit filters. So in the same way you can filter an entry, you can also filter an exit. So for example, it will block an exit unless a particular minimum, say, risk reward ratio has been reached, or pips profit. So for example, before we had it where it would exit when the indicator went in the opposite direction, but you can do it where it's given the trade time to get going. So you make sure that you've actually achieved a particular peak risk reward ratio or profit before it allows the exit. So if you find it's exiting a bit prematurely, say on an opposite signal, then you can use filters just to give it a chance to get going. Trade duration as well, that's popular. Let's give it a few candles to get going before we start exiting on indicators going opposite. Script section is really useful. It just adds, you can add buttons to the panel. A great example is a close all trades button, because you might see a few panels that have a close all trades button. You may wonder where ours is. Well, it's there in the library, so if you need it, you can download it. So you haven't got buttons on your panel, because this is taking up screen real estate, so you really want this panel as small as possible. So you just want what you need. So there we've got the close all trades button. And what's nice about that, when you add buttons and things, they actually appear in our application. We've got a Windows application that is available also from us, and in there, so if you've added buttons and things, they appear in there, and also on our mobile app as well. We've got a mobile version. So if you go to runwisefx.com/app, we've got a free Windows add-on app which allows you just to manage everything from a central location. And so that's really nice about our library, is where you can add in buttons and they appear on our Windows app and our mobile app as well, which allows you to control your desktop EA from your mobile. So that's really useful, and there's lots of great buttons you can add for closing all trades in profit and things like that. There is also, again, there's hotkey rules as well for opening trades on a button press on your keyboard. We then have a miscellaneous section, which is various things really. There's alternative ways of setting the stop loss, and just changing, say, things like a break even. Normally our break even is when it goes back to your entry price, but if you're like scaling in your position, you may have multiple tickets open on the same symbol, so it can actually look at the profit and base it on that. So it's really just a matter of going through and having a look in detail at each of those rules. The reason we've got a lot of stop loss type rules is we do support natively a lot of stop loss calculation methods. But what can be nice is to switch from, say, our automatic method, and then what you could do on a certain take profit, you could actually switch to rule mode, and that will take it then from the library. So basically what you could do, you could have a 50 pip stop loss, and then at a certain point, at a certain profit pips, you could get it to switch to rule based, and if you had this rule loaded, it would then switch your stop loss to being calculated on a moving average. So that's what it's there for. Event handling rules, that's quite advanced. We've actually expanded our Windows app to handle this natively, so don't worry too much about that section. And then we had those built-in rules that we mentioned, and we've got a few variations. So by default it will enter and exit on any configured indicators, but we have an alternative version. A good example is one that will actually set pending orders based on the high and low of the previous candles. So there's just a few little variations on our built-in rule. Again, just click the rule details to find out what all the details are on it. And we've got a couple of rules here. They're just for historical reasons really. Our product did used to have the stop loss reverse rule loaded by default, but we just put it into our library, so you just download it if you need it. And the same with close all trades button. Again, you just put it there so you can download it if needed. So it's just for historical reasons. Okay, so just a few specific things to talk about. So let's go back to that entry rule we had of trading on a particular time and direction. So what we've done, we've reset the EA back to default, just so it's a clean slate. CI-T was the rule, download it. Now, at the moment, obviously by default it's blank, and if you open a new chart, it's going to also be blank. So what we can do is to actually change the default value. So if you do open a new chart, it's going to have the time already set. And this is important if you're actually running our stats, because it won't look at these boxes because they're really meant for your live trading. It's going to look what's in the configuration file. So what we can do is in the configuration file is change the default value by going to Rule GUI Controls, and any library items that you've downloaded that have boxes, you'll see they appearing here. So what we can do now is change the default value to the time that we want, and the direction, we'll put that to both for now, and we're going to show you in a moment how you can actually filter that so it'll get it in the right direction that's suitable for the market. So click save, and you can see now on the other chart it's changed, it's appeared in there because we've actually changed the default value. So that's really important for back testing, and it just makes life a bit easier. Oh, just one other thing to tell you is you can, in config Rule GUI Controls, you've got the option to actually make it so that it's not visible on the chart. So if it is taking up a bit too much real estate, then you can just make them invisible. They're still there, but it's just they're not on the panel, and that's useful if you're not going to change the value of them. So no point taking up screen real estate if you don't need to. So we've had the entry there. So at the moment now it's going to open at 8 o'clock on the next day. But let's say we want to do it in the direction of this line. So again, we need to go for the config, indicator values to capture, and we need to select moving average. Don't forget the period was 50, so we do need to change that. And to get the slope, as we mentioned before earlier in the video, you need that ink deck capture mode. So what that's going to do for us is treat now that indicator as a filter. So what it's done is automatically downloaded this rule here, which allows any configured indicators to act as a filter on the main entry. So your main entry is to open a trade on a specific time of day, and the filter is the direction of the line. So you can see now it's allowing a buy trade, but will block a sell trade. So now tomorrow at 8 o'clock, if that line is still going up, it's only going to open a buy trade, even though we've got it set for both directions. So let's just remind ourselves, let's put it back on the chart so you can see it. It's set for both. It's because of the filter, it's only going to open in the direction of that line. So that's just a great way of adding some extra checks to an existing entry rule. So let's put that back on the chart as well so you can see it. Okay, something else great to show you is, imagine if you wanted to open a trade at 8 o'clock and then another one at 12, so potentially have two trades open at once. Let's show you how you can configure that. So if we go to config, really if you're going to be having two trades potentially in the same direction, you need to put our EA into what we call multi-trade mode. We detail it in the manual, but essentially it means increasing this above 0. So we set that to 1. That's now going to allow a maximum of two trades in the same direction, and you can change between, it allocates a different magic number for each possible trade. So you could select magic number 0, open a trade, and magic number 1 and open a trade in the same direction. So we've got 8 o'clock, it's going to open a trade. Now at the moment it's going to open now two trades at 8 o'clock, one with magic number 0, magic number 1. But this is how we could get it to do it at a different time for magic number 1. Let's have a look how we would do that. So we need to go to config, rule GUI controls, select that open time. And now what we need to do is to tick this box, which allows this value to be changed on a per trade index when in multi-trade mode. So let's just click save and explain what we mean by that. So what we call in our system, we call it a trade index. So the first selection at the top is trade index 0, and the next one is trade index 1, and then 2, 3, 4. Then what we can do is go to config again, rule GUI controls. And what we can say is, we can select our open time, but we can use this changes apply to here. And if we go in here and click select, and what we can say is for trade index 1, this is what we want the configuration to be. So we set that now to 1, and this time we're going to change it to 12. Click save. So it's still at 8 o'clock now for magic number 0, but if we go to magic number 1, trade index 1, we can see it's 12. And because we changed the configuration file, it gets picked up in the other charts as well. If we've got multiple charts open, all using the same configuration. So that's what's nice about using that rule GUI controls there. It's going to be for all charts, and as we mentioned, for your back testing as well. If you're using the strategy test, you need to get the configuration file correct. So there we go. So it's going to open a trade at 8 o'clock, still in the direction of that line, and then at 12 o'clock, again in the direction of that line, it'll open another trade for you. So just a great capability. Okay, so just one final technique to show you. If we just scroll down back to that script section that we had. So that was down there, we had the hotkey rule. So that's where we can open a trade when we just press a key on the keyboard. So if we just load that into the EA, and from the library just use that quick load code. Okay, so it's now going to open, and don't forget you always look in the rule details just to see the actual keys that you need. So B key will open a buy trade, S key for a sell trade. Now let's imagine you wanted to change this configuration to a different key. Let's explain how you could do that. So here you need to go down to our Windows application, So remember, this is available on our website, runwisefx.com/app, and for Windows it's free, and it's just a great resource actually. There's just so much in there. And the one of the things you can do is to go to config, EA configuration. And it's just an alternative way of configuring the EA than using the config button. It allows you to just do a little bit more. So for example, that rule GUIs control on that open time, you can see that extra entry there for trade index 1. We've got the default value of 12. But what we can also do is change how the trade rules work. And you can see the ones that have been added by the system with the entry time and everything and that filter. But there's the hotkey press, hotkey open. So if we click on there, and we've got the actual logic within the rule. We do have a manual on how you can configure your own rules, but you can perhaps get a little bit of a sense. Even if you're not a computer programmer, you can just see here we're having a look at what key has been pressed, and if it's B, then we're opening a trade, and if it's an S, we're opening a trade, and this says really what direction that trade should be. So B, this is a flag, is only evaluated for the buy direction, and flags of S means just the sell direction. The dollar means we're actually looking at text, so we're looking at the actual character. So if you wanted to say use the letter T, so they were just, the letters were just perhaps a bit nearer each other, and then G for sell, so it was like the key that's underneath, then you could just do that and click save, and now if I press the T on the keyboard, it's going to open a buy trade. So there you are, that's just an example of what you can do with our Windows app, and we're adding lots of great features in there, so it's really worth having a good look at our Windows app. Really, you can add our panels, so like your trading view charts, and we've got our signals where you can open trades based on Telegram signals and trading view pop-up alerts and so on. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the video, so I think we've covered quite a lot really. So do have a good look through our library. I recommend just make your favourite beverage and perhaps just have a couple of hours just going through, just seeing what's in there. Obviously you don't in any way have to use everything. It's really important in trading that not everybody's doing the same thing, otherwise trading would be no good. So there's people with all different kind of strategies. So obviously, it's rules for different strategies and so on. And make sure you do have a good look through. For example, there's like a filter to avoid opening a trade just before news, because the last thing you want to do is open a trade just before a high impact news is coming up, because it can really blow your account out of the water. There could be a big sort of 60 pip gap in the market that exceeds your stop loss. That can be a really good filter to have. So there's lots of gems in there, so I recommend having a good look through. And it is possible to get us to add things to the library, so we don't charge too much for it really, because we do know it's going to benefit the community. So if you do see a rule, or you can't find a rule that you want, or there is a rule but you perhaps just want it to do a bit extra, we can email us and we can look into that for you. And always remember, do look at the details link on exactly how to use the rule. So there's lots of important information there. Make sure you follow what that details link says, because we had a user the other day, they suddenly decided to add a percentage into a particular box, but the rule didn't support percentages. So make sure like our account management rule, that one does support percentages, and it will say so in the rule details link. It will say that it supports percentages or pips. So make sure you do follow the rule details, and that you fit in with what the rule wants to do. And then if something extra you do need, then do get in touch with us, and you can contact us at support@runwisefx.com. Well, thank you very much for watching.